Travis King has been returned to U.S. custody after being held in North Korea for 71 days. The 23-year-old U.S. soldier made a mad dash into the reclusive country earlier this summer, baffling American intelligence and further inflaming tensions. Before sneaking into North Korea, Private Travis King had racked up multiple disciplinary infractions, according to internal U.S. Army documents obtained by the messenger. In one of the incidents, he proclaimed he would not return to post or to America. King was stationed in South Korea when he was charged with 2 separate incidents of assault. He served a 50-day hard labor sentence in South Korea. After his release on July 10th, he was set to return to the United States, most likely for a court-martial. King was brought to the airport by military escorts on July 17th and confirmed by text that he had reached the departure gate. But actually, he left the airport and the U.S. military wouldn't notice until he had already reached North Korea. King had booked a tour of the demilitarized zone for July 18th. Shortly after the tour began, King ran across the border into North Korea and was picked up in a van by North Korean officials. Americans who have crossed into North Korea legally in the past have been vulnerable to brutal prison sentences and even torture. One such person, Otto Warmbier, was released back to the U.S. while in a coma and died shortly thereafter in 2017. King claimed that racism and discrimination in the United States drove his decision to defect to North Korea and seek political asylum. Luckily, he was not taken as a prisoner of war, and after significant diplomatic efforts, was expelled by North Korea. King could face time in military jail or a dishonorable discharge for his flight across the North Korean border.
Start with some brief remarks. The United States has secured the return of Private Travis King from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Earlier today, he was transported to the border between North Korea and China, where he was met by our ambassador to the People's Republic of China, Nicholas Burns. He then boarded a State Department OpMed plane and flew from Dandong, China to Shenyang, China, and then on from Shenyang to Osan Air Force Base in South Korea, where he was transferred to the Department of Defense. We appreciate the professionalism of our diplomats who worked with their counterparts at the Department of Defense and coordinated with the governments of Sweden and the People's Republic of China, and we thank Sweden and the People's Republic of China for their assistance in facilitating that transfer. He is now on his way to the United States, and we expect him to arrive in the coming hours. With that, questions?
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, well, when I woke up this morning, I thought the news of the day was going to be about Israel and the visa waiver program.
We'd like to keep you on. We'd like to keep you on your toes.
Yes, exactly. But obviously, can I just ask you on Travis King? Sorry, where did you say what base in South Korea?
Osan Air Force Base.
Osan? Okay. And then you're confirming that he has now left Osan.
Correct.
And
is on his way back to the United States.
Back to the U.S. And how did he get from North Korea to China?
I don't know how he got inside North Korea to the border. I'll let the North Koreans speak that if they want to. But then he was transferred.
How did he get?
He was. I believe he was driven by the North Koreans. But again, I don't have perfect.
Driven by the North Koreans or by the Swedes?
I don't have perfect fidelity on his movements inside North Korea. But he was taken to the border at Dandong, where he was transferred to U.S. custody.
And then where? And that's where Burns.
Dandong.
And
That's where Burns met him. Dandong, China.
He didn't go anywhere else in China before leaving for Osan?
The plane, he got on board an OpMed plane, which stopped in Shenyang, China, and then continued on to Osan.
And this OpMed plane, I don't know how many you guys have, but it's getting a lot of use. Or if there's only one, is this the same plane that brought back the people from Iran?
I do not know. I don't know how many we have. I don't know if it's the same plane. An OpMed plane, a State Department OpMed plane. Yeah.
Can I just ask about the diplomacy regarding this?
Sure.
What does it mean? I mean, obviously the U.S. wanted Travis King back, but does it mean something broader with North Korea? Could this be an opening for something broader? What are the motivations as far as you can detect for North Korea releasing?
So I would not want to speculate on any motivations on the North Korean side, and I don't know that I would take from this that it heralds some breakthrough in diplomatic relations. Obviously, we're pleased to have secured his return. We're very thankful for the government of Sweden for their work as the protecting power that they did to help facilitate his transfer back to the United States. I will restate, as I've said from this podium before, and as we have said, we are open to diplomacy with North Korea. We would welcome diplomacy with North Korea. They have always rejected that. We tried to reach out to them when Travis King first crossed the border into North Korea. We tried to reach out on a number of occasions. They rejected our direct approaches and ended up talking to Sweden and Sweden talked to us and helped negotiate this transfer, but I would not see this as the sign of some breakthrough. I think it's a one-off with them being willing to return this private.
Can I follow up on China's role a little bit? Do you see them more as a transit point in this situation? Did they play any role as a mediator?
They did not play a role as a mediator, but their role in providing transit or in facilitating transit is one we very much appreciate. We have always thought that China could play a useful role in any number of issues as it relates to North Korea. The Secretary said that directly to his Chinese counterparts. We've said it publicly on a number of occasions, and we do appreciate the role that they played here.
And I mean, your working level diplomats must have communicated on this. Do you think that these conversations can be described as a set of positive exchanges, or how would you describe these?
Well, we didn't have direct exchanges with North Korea, so certainly we had positive exchanges with Sweden.
With China.
With China, yes, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
is there, I mean, the relationship's not in a great place at the moment. Like, is there any hope of seeing this as, you know, sort of a jumping off point for more communication, for better relations?
I would say that we have seen an increase in the tempo of our conversations with the Chinese government across a number of fronts since the Secretary traveled to Beijing in June. Of course, you've seen that at the Secretary level, not just here, but at other departments in the United States government. You've seen that at the Assistant Secretary level. We have other meetings that we'll be able to make public in the very near future, where we're exchanging views with China on a number of issues. And we do think there is an opening to work with China. I think you saw that the Department of Commerce or the Department of Treasury just announced new working groups on economic issues, and we continue to pursue ways to work with them on stopping the trafficking of fentanyl, on returning United States detainees. So anytime we can work together on areas that advance U.S. interests or that address shared concerns, we see that as a positive and hope that it will lead to more work together.
And in the wake of this and Blinken's meeting last week in New York, do you see the meeting between Biden and Xi on the sidelines of APEC in San Francisco as more likely now?
I wouldn't want to say more likely, less likely. It's always tough to make those assessments from here, really from anywhere, with any degree of accuracy, because there are two parties at work here. I will just reiterate what we have said, which is that we think there's no substitute for leader-to-leader communication. The potential for a meeting between the two leaders is something that Secretary Blinken discussed with the Chinese Vice President last week at UNGA in New York. We believe it would be important to have that meeting, and we hope it will take place, but we don't have anything to announce yet. Let me go to Alex first.
Thank you. This all seems rather sort of unilateral on the North Korean side. They let it be known to the Swedes that they were willing to release King. Understanding that this was the culmination of intense diplomacy, was there anything that the North Koreans asked for or received in exchange? Was there a trade at all?
I am not aware of them asking for anything. Doesn't mean that they didn't, but I'm not aware if they did. I'm just not aware whether they did or did not ask for anything. We did not give them anything. We made no concessions as a part of securing his return.
Do you have any idea why they decided to suddenly expel him?
I am going to follow my general rule here and not try to get into the heads of foreign governments, and certainly not that one. Jenny, go ahead.
Thank you. Travis King voluntarily chose the North Korea. What punishment will he face when he comes home?
I would refer you to the Department of Defense for that question. He is an active member of the military, and that's a question they'll have to speak to.
Violations for,
I'm sorry?
He had the violations U.S. laws. He's active military.
Again, I'm going to refer that to the Defense Department, who would be the agency that would speak to that question. Yeah, one more.
One more, North Korea. North Korea's ambassador to United Nations, Sung Kim, said that the nuclear war on the Korean Peninsula was imminent and blamed the United States and South Korea. How would you comment on this?
We would obviously find those remarks irresponsible, as we find any number of statements that North Korea makes threatening its neighbors or raising tensions in the region. And I will say we will continue to work with our partners in the region, the Republic of Korea, Japan, to ensure their security and prevent North Korea from taking such aggressive actions. Go back.
So after the use of Travis King, do you think communicate with DPRK is getting more easier to compare to before?
Do I think what? What was the?
Communication to North Korea getting more easier to compare to before?
No, I wouldn't say that, given that, as I just said, they refused all of our attempts to communicate with them over this matter. They have always had communications with other governments, and we found it possible to communicate with them through Sweden, which, as I said, is our protecting power. But I don't think, as I said, I think in response to an earlier question, I do not see this as a sign of any diplomatic breakthrough that will have implications for other issues, other areas of concern we have with the DPRK regime.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Private King was described by U.S. officials as being in good spirits and good health. What do you know about his treatment while in the custody of the North Koreans?
I don't know anything at this point. It's possible that people who were on the plane with him have gotten further information. It hasn't been communicated back here yet, so I don't have any information other than to confirm that, yes, he was in good spirits, he was in good health, but with respect to his treatment, it's not something I can read out from the podium today.
Right now that he was interrogated or harshly treated in any way?
I would certainly imagine that he was interrogated. That would be consistent with past DPRK practice with respect to detainees, but I don't have any readout from his conversations with the people on the plane with him or the people that he met at Osan Air Force Base.
Okay, and did his release come as the result of an explicit ask by the United States, even if conveyed through Sweden, or do you view this as a sort of voluntary or even benevolent act on the part of Pyongyang, again, conveyed to Sweden?
I think it could be the result of both an ask and a voluntary decision. It was a request. We made it clear to North Korea that we wanted to secure his return, and they ultimately decided to do so.
And one more, when did their willingness to release him get conveyed?
In the past few days, I'd say. In the past few days, past few days, yeah.
Was it the subject of any conversations between the Secretary and other interlocutors while at the UN General Assembly?
Not that I'm aware of. I was in most of those conversations, and it didn't come up. It certainly didn't come up in our conversation with the Chinese Vice President. This was handled more at the working level, not at the Secretary level.
And sorry, but just to put a fine point on it, when did the U.S. become aware that they were going to get Travis King back?
I don't have a specific date. We've been working on this for some time, but it takes, as we've seen with the release of other detainees, it can take some time from the time that you get indications that he might be returned until you know it for sure, until you can actually negotiate the specific details of the transfer. Anything else on North Korea before you? Yeah.
When the plane stopped in Shenyang, did Nick Burns get off the plane?
I don't actually know if he was on the plane. I don't know if he was on the plane, the first leg of the plane, or whether it got. I don't know. I did not get a briefing on the manifest before coming up here. So.
Okay, well, I mean, you just said you didn't.
You
didn't know of anyone who had spoken to him on the plane, but presumably, if Burns was at the border and met him, and then got on the plane in Dandong, and then flew to Shenyang, he was on the plane for
right.
however long that flight is.
Let me say this. I presume he was not on the plane by himself. I don't know if it was the ambassador or other people. Whoever was on the plane with him, I haven't gotten a readout of anything he might have said to them.